Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to show a little bit more of a laid back video. I'm just going to work on building a apartment building that's in the city of Versailles. This is going to be one of many that I'm doing and something that I'll be able to do a little bit of copy paste on just to save myself some time trying to fill multiple city blocks. So this building, it's just a general apartment building. Taking a look at it on Google Maps, I don't believe that it was built as a single house. I mean, it's possible, but based off of the way that the front door looks, it has a slightly lower level than the windows of the ground floor, which makes me think that it goes into a vestibule, maybe with a step up, probably with doors to apartments on either side. So that's how I'm going to build this. It's going to be an apartment building. The idea is that in the city of Versailles, there are many artisans, people who have to support the palace, support the other people that live in the city, and you're going to need plenty of apartments. This will make sure to have a few different grades of apartments as you go up. And here I'm just trying to figure out how I want the facade to look like. And, I don't want the windows to actually be quite as tall. So let's go ahead and change the height of that just a little bit. And we'll make sure that we have some of these nice, simple railings, stand in for balconies in front of some of the windows to match the real life example. We'll also make the windows smaller as we go higher up the building. There we go. That should be good. And let's also make this cornice smaller. I think this is a good time to use the new shelf blocks. Well, they're not that new now, but they are very handy for adding architectural elements with a little bit more finesse than just using stair blocks. And we'll also have the mansard roof, which is very typical of buildings in Versailles, and very typical of French buildings in general. Now, see, we have the height of the building. Let's compare it against the height, or the elevation rather, of the marble court, which I read that in the city of Versailles there was an ordinance that buildings could not be at a higher elevation than the marble court. Now, I have a pretty flat city, and I didn't have the palace raised quite as high as I should have, to be realistic, so we'll have to fudge a few things, but I think that ultimately the height of this building should be fine. I don't think it's going to detract too much from the grandeur of the palace. And this is going to be one of the taller buildings that I have. I'm going to have plenty that are shorter, so I'm not too worried. Now, when I took a look at this on Google Maps, it was an L-shaped building. That's also part of why I don't believe that it was built as a house. I think that if it were built as a house, it would be a little bit more obvious and a bit more symmetrical. So this is a good corner building. That means that one of the sides I'm going to have no windows because it's going to be butting up against another building. And let's try to figure out what we want for the floor. I think just this nice diagonal black and white tile should be good. So let's dig out a little bit just to have a basement here, a cellar. I'm not going to go too crazy when it comes to foundations and basements for every building in this city because that would take forever. But here and there, just doing a little bit, it helps to add to some realism. As you can see, I just have a thin layer of grass blocks over, well, everything, including ravines and ponds, streams. I really did kind of a basic level of terraforming for the city because I knew that I would be doing plenty of things like this, buildings, copying, pasting. I just wanted a flat canvas to work with. So here we'll fill in the basement walls. And of course, I would imagine that nowadays, a building like this would probably have laundry facilities down in the basement, storage, HVAC, electrical access. When the building was built, I'm sure that it was storage for any number of things. But yeah, I think that we should be good with having just a shallow basement. We'll have this nice L shape. And like I said, the door, it seems like it goes into a vestibule that's kind of at a half level. So we'll do that and have it lead to some stairs that go up through the center of the building. And just do a nice pale oak for the stairs. Have a little bit going down. And then we'll have stairs going up. Make sure that we have the doorways into the different areas. And let's go ahead. These are the foundational walls that are going to inform the room sizes going up each floor of the building. It's just easier that way. So like I said, I imagine that the basement level would be for storage. I'm not going to worry too much about it. We'll see if I want to add in some furniture later on. I do have plenty of custom furniture models to use, but also when dealing with copying and pasting apartment buildings like this, I don't want to go too detailed because it starts to slow some things down. We have this nice custom slab that on the bottom looks like just plaster, good plain white ceiling, but then on top it looks like dark oak planks. We'll use some more of this tile for this landing here. Just make sure that we're able to go up or down the stairs. So let's just make an adjustment here. There we go. And a landing up to the, as they would say in Europe, the first floor, because the ground floor here, which is just above street level, I'm going to imagine that this is 3 rooms, maybe 3 studio apartments, maybe even 3 small offices, maybe one is for the landlord. But they're all accessed from this first landing here. And then the apartment above that will take up the whole floor. I think I'll do that for the second floor as well. Let's put a nice large door here. I think this nice blue should be good. Yeah, that'll look nicely with the sandstone texture. Good. So now we're going to have the landing for the first floor. And like I said, this whole next floor is going to be 1 apartment versus the ground floor, which has 3 different rooms, all accessed from the landing. Now let's make sure we fill in the glass. I like to use different types of windows in the same building on different floors just to add a little bit of variation, especially on this building since the ground floor is rusticated. I want the windows to also look different than the windows on the floors above. Let's also give the first floor this nice tile just to make it look a little bit more stately. It won't be a very large apartment, but just to add a little bit of class. Make sure that we always set the time back to daytime. And here we'll have a small hallway or vestibule to go between the rooms of this one apartment. And we can have the walls be the same color as the exterior. I think this yellow terracotta should be neutral enough. It can reasonably be the inside walls of a nice apartment. Though it's true, I do often like to do double walls, and especially for the palace, I always do double walls. For here, I want to try to keep the building tight. I don't want it to be too bloated with double thick walls, especially when the windows are just 1 block wide. And with some of the other buildings that I do for the city, I will have 2 block wide windows. Those are more likely to be townhouses for courtiers, members of the court at Versailles, those who couldn't get an apartment in the palace itself. And those ones will have a little bit more variation. I will definitely still do some copy paste, but with this, I want to make sure I keep it simple enough. So this first floor apartment should have let's do 3.5 tall ceilings. We'll have these slabs here for the floor above. Yeah, 3.5 blocks is sufficient. And the windows on this floor are tall enough that they give an air of elegance to this apartment, along with the nice tile floor. So we'll fill in the floor here. Now we'll have a small landing and then double back up for another full landing here for the second floor apartment. Yeah, that should be good. The stairs are a little windy, but not unlike real life apartment buildings. And let's have some doors for the windows here on the front so that you can actually go out to the balcony. Not on all of them, though. Some of them, let's just put a shelf here so that the balconies are just ornamental. There we go. And I'm using my custom iron trapdoor texture here, which looks like a nice 3/3 pane window. And it matches these nice white doors. It's very handy for, well, a number of different things. I've used it plenty of times in the palace. We'll have some simple fireplaces here. Yeah, that should be good. Something else with the texture pack, I changed the model for walls so that when you have a tall wall, it doesn't have any kind of gap. I didn't change it for all of the walls, just for a handful that I often use for fireplaces. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Go just fill out the hearth here. See, I take away the center post for the wall just to make it look a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact. There we go. And that should work for these fireplaces. Let's make sure that we put doors in. And I'm also using a variety of door colors inside the building here. For one thing, so you know what floor you're on, but also just so that it's not too monotonous. All right, so we'll work on the second floor apartment here. Same floor plan. We'll have fireplaces up here as well. We'll have the windows all match. Now, of course, there are commands that I can use for building some of these walls, but when I know that I'm going to copy and paste a building, uh, I'm fine to take the time to really make sure that I'm doing what I want to do block by block. I have a little bit more control this way. I don't have to worry so much about making a mistake that gets copied over multiple times. Here, let's put this block here for the threshold for the door. You'll see it from the bottom, but it will just look like the header for the door below. Like I said, we'll do the same windows as are on the first floor, though none of these will have doors leading out onto the balconies. All of the balconies on this floor will be purely for show. And of course, as I copy the building over, that's something that I can vary from version to version. Some of them I can put actual doors in for those balconies. Here we go. A couple more fireplaces for this apartment. And we'll use a different color for the doors on this floor. Fill in the ceiling slash the floor for the next level. Now the next level, the windows are smaller. So I'm thinking we're going to have 3 studio apartments up on this next floor. We'll double check to see the way that the stairs go up for the landing. We'll also make sure that we have fireplaces up here. And let's also make sure that we debug the railings here for these balconies. I always have the debug stick handy. It made the details on buildings a lot better once I discovered how to use it. And let's use actual glass panes here. They'll line up nicely with the sandstone stairs that form the bottom of the window. And in doing so, I make the windows look more like they're 1.5 blocks tall because the stairs go up half a block. And let's see, we'll have these interior stairs continue up. Yep, we'll have a landing here. And that will be perfect for access to 3 studio apartments. And we'll get rid of that door. There we go. And we'll still have one more level, the attic level. Now the attic level, we're not going to be able to have the same kind of access to 3 different apartments as we did on the 3rd floor, but that's all right. The attic level could, in theory, be for more storage. It could just be a kind of general apartment for multiple people to share. I do think a little bit about in the movie Ratatouille how Linguini has a very small apartment that's up in the attic of a building in Paris. And I'm sure at some point I'll have a building where I fill in a nice little attic apartment just like that. I do like to put in Easter eggs of things from movies or TV. And for this floor, yeah, it's only 2.5 blocks tall. Still perfectly serviceable. And even if you imagine that you're playing the game in survival, you could have a starter apartment up one of these studios on the 3rd floor. You would have enough space for a bed, a furnace, crafting table, chest. And we'll have this nice, yep, have the shelf continue around as a cornice. Don't need to do it on that side because it will be up against a building. But just to add a little bit of detail, let's put a drainage pipe here along with a hopper at the top. There we go. We'll make sure that we have space for the chimneys. So yeah, make sure we have a doorway going over there. I'm not going to bother with any fireplaces on this floor. Like I said, it could easily be for storage. We'll figure out where we want the other windows up on the attic floor to be. Have our nice mansard roof. I'm also not too concerned with the attic floor because the inside, you can see the tough bricks that make up the roof from the outside. And it's not easy to hide that without really taking away space. And I'd rather just have a lot of, not very nice looking space rather than a small amount of space that just has whitewashed walls or yellow terracotta walls. There we go. Finish the dormers. Finish our walls. Then we'll put our doors in. Let's go back to the green here. This is a new door texture that I haven't used a whole lot yet, but I do like how rich the green is. Let's also put our trapdoors as railings going all the way down the stairwell. It's another just little bit of a detail that can add some realism. And also let's change around this landing here just a little bit because we don't want to have it look too tight, although we can't get down, so let's change that. There we go. That should work. And let's finish out our railing. I do wish that I could come up with a better model for railings on staircases. For really big, stately staircases, I did come up with a custom model for railings, but those are really chunky and don't work in tight spaces like this. All right. So this landing goes up a little high, but then we get up to the attic. So let's finish off our roof here. Let's make sure we have our chimneys. They need to be tall enough to clear the roof. And since these chimneys actually have multiple flues going up, let's make sure that they're wide. Should work. Should we finish our walls so we don't have gaps? I try to keep the materials that I use for roofing somewhat consistent. I switch around between tough bricks, cobbled or not, deep slate tiles, and then deep slate bricks. I used to very often use nether bricks. I do sometimes still, but I find that the deep slate and the tough just look really nice for roofing. There we go. Let's just put a nice ceiling in over the stairwell, along with a hanging lantern to add a little bit of light. We have a skylight up at the top so that it lets natural light in all the way down to the ground floor. And you know what? Let's put a bit of furniture in, just see how it looks. So if we do the custom, yeah, that's a little odd. If we put a sofa here, that's a little bit in the way, so let's put a sofa over here. Chair, chair. Yeah, altogether it's just a little weird. It it works, but I don't think I'm going to go through the trouble of putting furniture in on each floor. I'm not even sure exactly what I'd want to do in this one. I suppose this would be a 3-room apartment, a parlor, a kitchen, and a bedroom, but I don't know enough about 17th and 18th century French urban architecture to do that just yet. For outside details, let's make sure that we add the shutters, because the real building has shutters. Granted, the shutters on the real building are, you know, each side of the window is half the width for a shutter. I can't do that with 1 block wide windows, but we can still have a full shutter that's off to the side. We'll make sure we do that all the way around. Back before the different trapdoor textures, I used to do shutters with either just a different colored block next to the window or with map art. Doing it this way is much better. Not only is there a nice thickness to the trapdoors, but it is less laggy, takes less time. And that's what I put this nice rich green texture in for the trapdoor. It was already pre-existing in the texture pack when I first started to mess around with it. But I liked it so much, I thought this would be perfect for shutters. There we go. So I think that looks pretty good for a building that we can then copy over. And you know, we're doing a whole city, so it's not going to be very obvious that this building is copied in multiple places. Whenever I do the clone command, I like to use some obvious blocks like red wool as a guide marker, just so I know what I'm dealing with. Especially here because we have the cornice, we have the chimney, we have blocks that jut out, so we can't just go by the cornerstone of the building. Let's also make sure we measure. So we're 21 blocks away from that. This is 18 blocks in. All right. So let's put our first one right over here. I know it's just down the street, but once we have the street filled in with a whole bunch of different buildings, we'll be able to, or we won't be able to really notice that it's the same building. There we go. Make sure it's the proper level. Excellent. And you know what? Something else we can do is take the entire volume of this new building and replace white terracotta for the yellow terracotta, just so that the wall is a little bit of a different color, just to differentiate it from the original. And let's also just change the rusticated ground floor a little bit. Excellent. And let's also change the roof. Like I said, I like to use the deep slate tiles. First, we'll change the full blocks, and then the slabs, and then I'll just manually change the stairs on the mansard roof. Perfect. And every time that I copy a building, it's one less building that I have to do from scratch. There are certain things like you have to use the debug stick again on certain things after you've copied it. But it's still way easier than building a whole nother building from scratch. Perfect. And let's see, let's find another place to put it. We don't want it to be on every corner because that will become more obvious. Because we could put it right here, but I'm afraid that you would just be able to tell. So maybe let's put it over here, and let's just kind of have it in the middle. Even though we have windows going down one side, it's an L-shaped building, we can have an alleyway instead of a whole street. But let's not have it be on a street corner. Yeah. We'll have a little bit of space between this building and the building next to it so that the windows aren't blocked up. Oh, let's also just quickly, for my own fun, I've been putting name tags on the wandering traders just to see where they end up as I work on the city. Some of them end up in kind of weird places. They travel a little bit. All right, now let's change some colors here. In this texture pack, light gray terracotta looks more white. That's just how it is. I never changed it from the aspects of the texture pack that I inherited. Let's also change the rusticated floor, and let's also change a couple of the details here. Now, of course, concrete powder, I'll need to make sure that I support that. I'll also want to change out the walls that flank the door here. Let's see, we could put a lantern there, but actually, I just came up with a new copper torch. There we go. And now we can support above, put the door in. Excellent. And we'll just use the debug stick again. Perfect. And you know what? Let's just get rid of these ones because, like I said, there's just going to be an alley here. We don't need to have real or fake. Oh, these ones fell down too. Let's just fix that. Perfect. We don't need balconies here. just keep that one over there. Let's also make sure that those are debugged. Perfect. So we've copied the building twice now, so it's been used 3 times. That's, you know what, actually I like the yellow of the sandstone here. I think that looks good. Let's do the building just one more time, a 4th time. We can always copy it more in the future, but just for now, just to kind of start to fill in some of these blank areas. And let's put it on this corner here, because it is going to take a little bit to fill in all of the buildings around this square. And that should be perfect here. Good. Measure back 21 blocks. Good. And we'll clone the original. And of course, I can clone this over to the other side of the city. And I will in the future. Let's, you know what? Let's change out the glass block that we're using for our, let's go all the way over for our balconies. Again, just something slight to give a little bit of variation. We can even keep the walls the same color. Let's also add some fake balconies up here. Good. Excellent. And let's make these shutters smaller. Good. And now debug these balconies. So I hope that you enjoyed just this little build along video. I'll try to do a few more of them as I go forward for the city of Versailles. Lord knows there are plenty of buildings I'm going to have to do. You can see that I got a good bit done on the King's then Queen's stables nearby. But it's just going to be a lot of repetitive work, a lot of creativity, because I'm going to have to just fill in spaces that I have no reference for. Ultimately, though, I think it's going to come out nicely. And please check out my other videos. Let me know what you think. I always love to get feedback. And I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.